Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. Every month I invite creators onto the channel to say what they enjoyed playing most in the last month. Now it doesn't need to be a brand new game. Sometimes we have games from 20, 30 years ago popping up. Maybe someone's only recently played it or they've just got it back off the shelf and realised how much they love it. There's always some variety and there's some games this month that I hadn't even heard of. Let's check out what some of the creators have picked.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Joshyaks, and my game of the month for June is an unknown game. Specifically, it is Planet Unknown. Unfortunately, this giant beast of a game is currently very hard to find, although apparently they're going to be doing another Kickstarter in the very near future for some expansion content, so hopefully the base game will be reprinted at the same time. But speaking of that, I do wish I had the Kickstarter special edition of this game that adds the extra planets and corporations, because I've already played this a ton and pretty much tried all the content that's in here and just want more. In fact, myself and my primary gaming friends have both fallen totally in love with this game. I rated a 9 out of 10. He rates it a perfect 10 out of 10. So it's been a huge hit with us. And the reason is, first of all, I enjoy tile laying mechanisms in games. Secondly, I enjoy it if those tiles that I'm laying are these fun polyomino shapes. And thirdly, I really enjoy it if the tile laying is not the entire game, but is kind of a means to an end where there's other stuff going on. And in the case of Planet Unknown, that is definitely what's happening. Each decision you make in this game is so tough because there's a lot of stuff to think about, and yet the gameplay itself couldn't be easier. Literally, all you're doing on your turn is you're choosing a tile, you're placing it on your planet, and then you're moving up either 1 or 2 tracks on your resource tracks and getting any associated rewards with those, and that's literally it. But the way everything works together and the way you score points and how things kind of chain to help each other out, there's just a lot going on and a lot to think about with quite a straightforward rule set. That being said, I don't give it a perfect 10 out of 10 myself. There are a couple of minor issues with it, but the major issue I have is that the game encourages simultaneous turn taking. And so all players are independently kind of playing their own little games with their own little tableau. And that is just a big pet peeve of mine when it comes to board gaming. Yes, I've played with gamers who almost see their fellow players around the table as a minor inconvenience that are necessary in order for them to play their game. But for me, I see board gaming as being a very social experience. Otherwise, might as well just be playing a video game. But I love to follow along with what other players are doing with their turns. I want to see what strategies are being employed by them and how their game is going, and I like to interact as that is happening. I really dislike the idea of just playing my own little game at the same time, and then we reach the end of the game and go, oh, you beat me this many points to this many points. I have no idea how it happened, but I guess it did. And so because of that, I've kind of asked my 2-player opponent that we actually take turns doing our actions rather than doing them simultaneously, so that I can follow along with what he's doing and kind of keep that connection with my fellow player. But other than that, the game is amazing. It's beautifully produced, has really nice components, it has a fun theme, and just really interesting gameplay. Cheers.
Hi, it's Chris and Angie from the Chasing Meeples podcast. And we're here this month to talk about the games that we played. Chris, what's this?
Ooh, well, that is a fist, Angie. But I want to ask you a question now.
What?
What is this?
Fingers.
Really? Fingers.
Mm-hmm.
These are fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then you take them,
Mm-hmm.
and you go like this, and you do with this, right?
Wonder Twins power.
Mm-hmm. I choose the power of somebody who knows what a fist is. My fist has meeples in it, and I've got a fist full of them. So that is my game of the month. Fist full of meeples. I got this game for Father's Day. It was a surprise. I did not see it coming. Angie knows I've been looking at this game for a while, and it's a blend of Mancala meets worker placement in a Wild West setting. What's cool about it is each one of the meeples has its own special ability, special powers. So like the blue meeples, they are the law. They're the law, the police, the cops, the sheriffs, the deputies, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And these guys are the robbers. and they don't like each other. So if you put a police officer in a location where the robber is, you arrest him, you put him into prison, and then you get to pull from the bag. So it's got a mixture of I don't know,
Bag pulling.
Bag pulling. That's the mechanic I'm thinking of. Bag pulling. Do you hear how good I'm explaining this game? If you want to hear more,
He's still traumatized because he bombed the last review on the podcast.
I tried really hard. If you really want to hear more of this, like really good and in-depth, really good like description of a game, you should listen to our newest episode of the Chasing Meeples podcast, where we review Resurgence. And at the end of it, you might actually
not know how the game is played.
Angie, what do you want to talk about this month?
Jerusalem Anno Domini. This is a Euro game in which you are a follower of Jesus at the Last Supper, and you're going to try to sit as close as possible because that's where you're going to gain points. Back during the Passover, the host was the guy you wanted to sit as closest to. It kind of created some clout for you in your area if you could get close to the host. And in this game, it was Jesus. You're going to use a hand management system to play cards onto a personal player board, and you need to collect sets of 3 cards with icons in a specific order, and you're going to hand them to the apostles. The apostles going to sit at the Last Supper at the table, and you're going to collect the points from that set. And that is your main way to get points in the game. The cards have 2 uses. It is a very fun game. I soloed the game. So it is a very different game from the multiplayer game. It is, if you played it with me.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play it yet. I want to give everybody a heads up. If you do pick up this game, you are going to be in for a lot of stickering. There's a lot of stickering. Took Angie a while to do that.
I'm not done yet.
But that's okay. It's all right. I think it's when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be worth it, and I can't wait to play it. So yeah, that's it. Those are our board games of the month. Check us out at chasingmeeples.buzzsprout.com. We have a YouTube channel. You can check out some videos we've done, and we're on most of the social media channels. Ollie, thanks for letting us be a part of this month and every month so far, and hopefully there's many more months to come. I'm doing it again. I'm just talking. Yeah, we should just keep it short and sweet.
This month, there were some games that I have enjoyed. June Imperium, I finally won a game with 2 of the expansions thrown in, which I hadn't touched before. They were really cool, and I think at least one of them, which replaced part of the board, improved the game. I've enjoyed other games such as Rome in a Day, a I Split You Choose game. I don't get too many of those to the table, but I really love that mechanic. But there's only really one game I can choose as my best of the month, and that's a game which hit the table 12 times in the month. That's basically unheard of when it comes to games recently. Not the fact that it's hit the table 12 times, but just 12 times in 1 month. Now, it's a short game, 20 minutes, you're rolling dice, writing stuff in My City Roll and Build. Nearly said roll and write, because that's basically what it is. You're rolling these dice to create the polyomino shapes you're adding to your pad. You play over 12 episodes, so that pad is changing. And you add your scores up throughout and score it at the end, so you can win some episodes or lose some episodes, win the chapters because it's broken up into each 3 episodes is a chapter. Some different things happen, different ways to score on every episode. I don't know, I just really liked My City. I was so hopeful that Roll and Build was going to be more of the same, and it is. And it's replayable. My City, we finished it, we tried the Eternal mode, it wasn't the same, and it left the collection. It was fantastic for the Legacy experience, but My City Roll and Build is back on the shelf, and we will play it through again. because we can. There's enough sheets in there for us to play through multiple times before we have to bother about laminating some, and we will just go through it again at some point, because for quick 20 minutes you can play an episode, which means in an hour and 5-10 minutes you can do a chapter of 3 episodes. That's perfect for squeezing in on a weeknight or whatever and just enjoying it, because it's such a chilled thing. Roll the dice, add the shapes together. That's the type of building it is. Okay, it's a stripe. I've forgotten what the stripes are supposed to be. I think it's one of them is like residential, then an industrial. They're stripes, solids and crosses. Forgetting all of the theme, because the theme is basically forgettable. It's just a fun polyomino roll and write experience, and yeah, 12 times in a month, you can't not pick it for our favourite game of the month. That's My City Roll and Build. Anyway, on to Amass Games.
Hey buddies, welcome to Amass Games. My name is Simon. Today doing Best of the Month for June 2023. Now, I've played 75 different games this month. I've been to numerous conventions, both in the UK and abroad, in places like Germany, even then caught COVID at some point as well. So a chance to play some solo games, a chance to play with actually not many people, but also pre and post COVID recovery. I've actually had a chance to play lots of people as well. So this particular game, it has been on my shelf for a while. It is a game which might be hard to pronounce, and this might be in reverse as you see this, but this is Tu Suyu, and this is by David Tortze, who is the solo designer as well on this game, who I've also talked about before as a solo designer for the 4th in the T series of games. Now, behind me, you can actually see the 3rd T series of games there, and you can see I had a setup playing review for both of those games on the channel. I've got other games in the T series as well, which aren't technically T series, but they are by Board and Dice, such as Escape Tales. I've got those trilogies as well. So this game has multiple mechanisms, many systems as well. It's regarded as a heavyweight Euro or medium to heavyweight Euro, but with a weight of 4.11 out of 5. It's one of those heaviest games I've got in my collection. So what are the mechanisms that you'll find in this game? Well, it has the follow mechanism. You do something and everyone else follows, like in games such as Race for the Galaxy and Roll for the Galaxy, but that's just to name a few. It has a form of worker placement whereby you are activating something where you go. It also has a few other things, such as kind of a variable player power, various starting mechanism, whereby everyone has unique cards, and you're going to use those in different pieces of weaving that you're going to put together. There's other things but I'll write down here as well, such as a tableau whereby you're going to set, collect and score more points as you might improve as you get more tapestries, should you wish to do that, but you don't have to. There's a form of engine building whereby you can get various statues and they trigger when you place out a worker 2. And there's adventure worker placement. There's also action points, a certain amount of actions that you can do in your turn. You might see my video to do with Tikal, which also does this, which won Spielers Jahres in 1999. In this form, basically, you have 1 to 7 potential action points, which allows you 1 to 7 tasks, allowing you to do various things, gain more resources, maybe build some steps, maybe get out a building, amongst other things. Lots of things to do, lots of things to think about too. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It takes 60 to 120 minutes, although your first game may well take longer. It's a game whereby you can actually choose to lengthen or shorten the game if you want to get more villagers, because when villagers run out, it triggers a festival. Once you've had 3 festivals, the game will end. So as a 3, you'd think it might take longer, but it doesn't. There's only 1 more villager, and even with a 4, there's an additional 1 or so villagers as well, so it doesn't take any longer necessarily. As for solo play, again, he's known for being a solo designer. I've also talked about other solo games that he's made or done designs for as well. There's also Rondell. There's 5 places you can go, because this place, this Tu Suyu, represents 4 locations within this kingdom of the Incan Empire, and crucially what you're looking to do is combine them and basically have people sacrifice to the gods, come up from the base around this temple, which is like a pyramid shape. And what that is based on feeding, so you feed them potatoes and corn. Funny enough, it's one of 3 Incan games I did play in June, bizarrely. And there was, potatoes and corn, and it's very weird talking about, hey, I want some more potatoes, but there we go. So there's a like I said, rondelle, whereby you're going around this pentagram, and as you go around it, you're looking to basically trigger other actions, which again, speaking about following actions, other people can do too, typically paying a resource. Lots of stuff to talk about, Tableau as well, and that's only some of those resources, some of those mechanisms. But for now, hope you found of interest. Obviously, like, share, subscribe with the notification bell. Speak to you again next month. For now, back to the table.
Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is the jolly Juneberry herself,
Sarah.
And today we are rolling with two and talking about our favorite games in June. So let me start. So for me, my game is Cubitos. Now this was a game that kind of flew under our radar because something happened a couple years ago.
Gee, I wonder what that was.
And we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But in a math trade, we saw it, tried it out, and ran across it and found we liked it. So what is the game? The game is set in a cube world where you're racing in a cube cup. The mechanics of the game have you build a dice pool in which you have different abilities that help you run this race, and it becomes this very strategic game that emerges where it starts off slow and slowly builds so that you can actually see your choices get better and bigger throughout the course of the game. And it's that whole progression that I really like, seeing where my early choices make a bigger impact later on in the game, and that's why I like Cubitos.
I also like it. It was very enjoyable to play. I definitely liked the push your luck aspects and the fact that you are racing mostly against yourself. I mean, obviously you need to beat your opponents,
right?
But you're not doing it in a I'm going to trip you up sort of way. You're just trying to build the best pool of dice and get there the fastest and the farthest.
And you can even distract yourself because there's stuff on the racetrack. It's like, well, if I take this little detour, I can go over here and pick up this bonus over here and completely kind of forget the fact that you're racing.
Yes, it's very easy to get distracted.
Yeah, so it's a neat game that it's a lot more than a roll and write, which is what I initially thought. Roll and move.
Yes.
Roll and move that I had initially thought of when we first opened it up. And like, geez. And it just became so much more.
Agreed. All right, so for me, I really enjoyed Abduction. What was it? A weirdly strategic duck kidnapping game. This one...
I think that says a lot for the...
It really does. Okay, so yes, the production of this game is what drew me in first. I mean, it's ducks. We love rubber duckies. We used to have a collection of rubber duckies. So this kind of like really hit home. And it has this weird rubbery UFO that you pull the ducks out of. So production aside, though, what you do in the game is really engaging, but it's lightweight. I have a lot of trouble with spatial puzzles. I want to like them, but my brain just goes sideways every time I try a really heavy one. So this is a short, light game. You have a restricted number of rows. It's only 2 rows, 5 columns, and you're rearranging the ducks on there using pretty straightforward action cards. So there's a lot of random elements that really just evens the playing field. And it's a really short game in terms of like 20, 25 minutes at that. And it plays really well and it plays really fast and there's a lot of different ways that you can set things up. So if you want it to be even lighter, you just play with the, the cards,
lower point.
Yeah, the lower point cards. But if you want a longer game, then you can play with more cards. So there's just a lot of ways. And there's the expansion, which I highly recommend for the gamers because, okay, what did they call it?
Intergalactic Duck
Research expansion. It introduces glitter ducks, which are cute for sure, but they're also wild resources. So that opens up the play space, but then there's also extra pods that you can move around your board. So the formations are more complex. So you have aspects of the expansion that make it harder, but also easier. And again, since there's so much variability in the game, you can set it up however you like.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything on what you liked about it?
I just like playing with the ducks. They put a ton of production value in this thing, and the game is just as fun to play with.
Yep.
Not even playing the game, just playing with the little components.
Playing with the ducks is always fun.
Because you get a mess of ducks in that little UFO.
So many.
So, yes. So if any or all of those games sound interesting to you, you can check them out, see our more in-depth look at both the accessibility of them and our reviews on them.
And how they play at 2 players.
And how they play. And you can do all this on YouTube under the channel Rolling with Two.
Hi, it's Barb, MeeplePhD, and my favorite play for June 2023 is Woodcraft. This is a game that's co-designed by Vladimir Suchi and Ross Arnold, and I've got to say Suchi is one of my favorite designers. He tends to build these games that are just really tight. You only have a few actions each round and a limited number of rounds in the game, and by the end you just can't feel like you can get everything done, but you've accomplished something. And I don't know what it is about that. It feels frustrating when you're in the middle of the game, but I really enjoy that. It makes every turn feel just so important that I choose the right thing to do. So in this game, you are woodcrafters who are manipulating wood in order to make these beautiful objects. Each turn, the player is taking an action tile from the central board in the middle. You'll slide it into the next region of that circle, take the action. You might also get an associated bonus. And then you have some free actions that you can take on your turn as well. So the actions include things like planting a tree that then grows each turn until you harvest it, or buying things from the market. You can also hire helpers to help you out, or improve your workshop to give you more saw blades or more ways to glue and splice the wood together. And then those are things that you can do for free on your turn. The splicing things together if you have the right tools, or slicing up your dice, and you actually, like, if you have a 6, you can slice it into a 2 and a 4. And it's that kind of part of the game that's really cool. It feels very thematic. You are actually cutting up your dice in order to make them smaller and get the pieces you need to complete the projects that you're trying to do. So far, I've only played it at 2 players, and it's worked really well at 2. I imagine with more players, that action board in the middle is going to see a lot more movement. But as a 2-player, it's still fairly median and a lot of fun. You do still end up messing up your opponent, as my spouse did about 3 times in our last game. And besides all of that, the art is amazing. When you look through this pile of wood-crafted things that you can make, there are some beautiful touches on all of the different cards. Like in this last game that we played, we discovered that the rowboat that you can make has a posh octopus just hanging out in it, toasting with a champagne glass. And that just gave us a giggle. So this one I love. I love the art. I love the gameplay. I want to try it solo. I want to try it with more players, but it is a really solid 2-player game. And that's why Woodcraft was my favorite for June 2023. So that's it for me. I'll be back again next month. You can find me on the internet as MeeplePhD on Instagram and Twitter. Or if you like astronomy at all, I have a YouTube channel, MeeplePhD also, where I connect astronomy and board games. So go be sure to check that out and like and subscribe so you can see my videos when they come out. Otherwise, I will see you next month.
And well, that about wraps us up. A bit of a shorter one this month, but hope you enjoyed nonetheless. The links to all the creators will be in the description box below. And until next month, have a great month gaming.